I think it's no big mystery that farm and ranch land in this country is disappearing. We're losing acres of it every year. In the late 90s, there was a couple of slogans, cattle free by 93 and no moo in 92. And I mean, they really wanted to get ranchers off the landscape is what it amounted to. People drive along and see areas of open space and think that, well, that's always going to be like that. One of the things that the Malpai Borderlands Group did was focus on, okay, if we're off the landscape, what's the alternative? You know, there's a better way. Can't we work together and find things that we both want to see out of the landscape and see if we can't get there?
The Malpai Group is really focused on very practical things, on how do we protect the land, how do we manage the land better. And one of the important aspects of that is using fire.
We're in a constant balancing act with our ranching and the cattle and the grass. The grass is like a bank account. If you don't have any, your bank account's low. To keep things going, we have to constantly think ahead 6 months, a year, 2 years, and plan on it. The main reason why the Malpai Group was developed was to provide ranchers with an opportunity to participate in their program for grass.
Fire out here isn't a bad word. It's generally very beneficial. There's just a limited amount of moisture here and precipitation, and in the end, the shrubs can outcompete the grass if given a chance. So fire is one way to hold back that brush and keep the grass vibrant and healthy. Originally, they were seeing fires that would otherwise have been beneficial being stopped by these agencies who it was their job to put out fire.
We'd watched brush encroachment take over at the expense of grasses. We needed to get fire back in this landscape.
We had a lot of discussion with the agencies, and we agreed that we needed to do a prescribed burn. Our experience with the agencies and how they came on board with the fire convinced the ranchers that if they were willing to get out front on some of these issues, that they could set the agenda as leaders and not as just followers. That was pretty much the start of the Malpai Borderlands Group.
The total area that we work in is approximately 1 million acres. The ranches here aren't owned outright. It includes private land as well as leased land from the state of Arizona or the state of New Mexico, the Bureau of Land Management, Department of Interior, and the USDA Forest Service. So we call them partners because they are partners. If we're going to get anything done in terms of conservation, it just goes so much better when everybody says, yes, this is a good idea, let's do this.
One of the things that we've been able to do here is really create an opportunity to study the effect of fire on a landscape scale being applied as a management tool.
We've done a lot of things with brush control that we didn't used to have, and it's really working if Mother Nature cooperates with you.
We know a lot more about some species, you know, what the key elements of their habitats are and how to manage them. I think it's been a win-win situation for everyone. And the ranchers themselves like to have the wildlife around.
You can get out, drive across your pasture and look out and see quail running around and see antelope. If we didn't have water systems in this area, we probably wouldn't see them as much because there's not really any area down here that is naturally available to hold and pool water. Whenever we do something, it's not only just what benefits our cattle, but also what benefits the wildlife out here as well.
If it's a project on a ranch and it's going to benefit that rancher, we expect them to pay the percentage that is total benefit for them. But a lot of it is benefit for everybody.
Really, in the midst of this larger Malpai Borderlands area, the wildlife refuge was established to protect fish, which seems odd here in the middle of the desert. This is a place where landowners and the federal government really look at endangered species as in a positive way. One of the mechanisms that the Malpai Borderlands Group, the NRCS, and the Fish and Wildlife Service came together on is an erosion control project which was funded through a cooperative recovery initiative, which is a funding mechanism that the Fish and Wildlife Service brought to the table to help do work on private properties that benefit endangered species on adjacent national wildlife refuges. Rather than water just racing through here, it's caught in this sediment which acts like a gigantic sponge. And that water is then released slowly as groundwater. 400 yards where the cottonwood trees begin down there is where this water resurfaces. And that water is occupied by a variety of federally listed endangered and threatened fish.
By treating the endangered species as an asset that helps you achieve these goals, which are beneficial both for the ranches, improving forage condition, improving water conditions, it's a win for everyone.
You know, the interesting thing was we just went through about a 20-year drought. Now, everything would tell you that this country ought to look terrible. So I think obviously the fact that we're, working with people who are studying the landscape, the fact that we're thinking about things besides cows, and our use of fire has really helped to keep this landscape viable and looking as good as it does. Conservation easements are the major tool that we've used to avoid land fragmentation, and we're very serious about keeping this land in open space.
A conservation easement is an agreement between a landowner and a land trust, which the Malpai Group is. Essentially, the easement retires the development rights on a piece of property. So a ranch family that has decided to put a conservation easement on their ranch is making a significant commitment to the long-term use of that land just for ranching.
Our choice was to make a conservation easement was a family choice. Where I was raised, we had a cattle ranch. That ranch was sold and then subsequently subdivided into 40-acre parcels, and it's kind of sad. But that element convinced us to solidify our ranch that it would remain a ranch.
I can remember little areas around the house where I'd play, and they seemed so much bigger than, how you are when you're a kid. But when my daughter was raised out here, I took her to some of those same places. And that sort of thing is really special. But the other thing that I've learned from being part of the Malpai Borderlands Group is that other people can love this country as much as I do. I think it's important that ranchers recognize that, and we don't just think that it's ours. We're just the caretakers, and we're fortunate to be able to do that.